It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the kind of day little girls dream of, with music, flowers, and love in the air. Anya had imagined it 1,000 times, walking down the aisle in red and gold, her heart full, her future bright. But sometimes the day you wait for becomes the day that breaks you. The hall was filled with people, all eyes on her, but not with admiration, with judgment. As she stepped forward, smiles turned into whispers. "She's so dark. Couldn't they find someone fairer? She looks like the help, not the bride." The words pierced the air like needles. She heard every one. She kept walking, head high, smile trembling. Then the unthinkable happened. The groom, Rishab, the man she loved, the man who had promised to stand beside her, took a step back. His mother whispered something to him, something sharp, something toxic. And then who said it? Loud, cold, final. "I can't marry her." Just like that. Gasps echoed across the hall. Phones started recording. Her father's hands dropped. Her mother's face turned pale. Anya didn't cry. She didn't scream. She turned around, slowly, and walked out of her own wedding. Her dress dragging behind her like a broken dream. Her heels clicking on marble like the sound of a heart shattering. She didn't remember how she got home. She didn't remember how long she stared at the mirror. Hours? Days? All she saw was her skin, her reflection, the girl who wasn't fair enough to be loved. The internet had a field day, memes, gossip, videos titled "Bride Dumped for Being Dark." Her name trending for the worst reasons. Friends disappeared. Neighbors pretended not to know her. Even relatives said things like, "Maybe this is a sign from God." But deep inside the wreckage, something began to stir. She stopped crying one day. She stood up, looked at herself again, really looked and whispered, "I was never the problem." That whisper became a promise. She started walking early in the mornings, not to lose weight, but to feel her breath again. She picked up books about power, about pain, about women who were told they were too much or not enough. She started journaling. Every scar, every insult, every memory. Then one post, just one, a selfie, no filter, no makeup. Captioned, "This is the skin they rejected. I love it anyway." And something strange happened. People began to listen. A photographer reached out. "We're doing a shoot about real beauty. Would you be in it?" She said yes. That campaign, "Melanin is Magic," changed everything. Her face was everywhere. Billboards, Instagram, fashion pages. Suddenly Anya wasn't. The girl who was dumped. She was the woman who rose. She got offers. She got interviews. People who once mocked her now reposted her pictures with captions like "Queen" and "Inspiration." But she hadn't forgotten. Not the whispers. Not the walk down that aisle. Not Rishab. 1 year later, almost to the date, she was invited to a fashion gala. She stepped out of the car in a silver gown that wrapped around her skin like moonlight. Cameras flashed, people gasped, but her eyes, calm, sharp, unbothered. And then she saw him. Rishab, standing in the crowd, staring at her like he'd seen a ghost. He didn't recognize her at first. Then he did. His jaw clenched. His fiancée held his hand. "Who is she?" she asked. He didn't answer, because how do you explain that you threw away a diamond because you were too blind to see its worth? Anya didn't flinch, didn't smile. She walked past him without a word. She took the stage, lights on her, 1,000 eyes watching, and she said, "A year ago I was told I was too dark to be loved, too dark to be a bride. But here I am, not just loved, but luminous. I didn't change to please anyone. I changed because I realized I was already enough." The applause was deafening. Rishab stood there, silent, regret burning inside, him like acid, and Anya. She walked off the stage, not just admired, but unforgettable. The night of the gala changed everything, for her, for him, and for everyone who had ever doubted her. But success, she learned, came with a price. Suddenly, Everyone who had turned their backs on her wanted to be seen with her. The same friends who vanished when she was broken now sent messages like, "So proud of you, babe. We always knew you'd make it." She smiled politely, replied to none, because she hadn't forgotten. Not the silence, not the betrayal. Her parents, oh, her beautiful parents, they were the only ones who had stayed. They watched her rise with quiet pride and silent tears. They didn't say much, they didn't need to. She saw it in their eyes. But her journey wasn't over. In fact, it had just begun. That year, she was invited to speak at a university. She stood on a stage where young girls looked up at her with wide, searching eyes, and for the first time, Anya didn't speak about pain. She spoke about power. "I used to think my skin was the reason I wasn't loved," she said. "But now I know it was never my skin, it was their blindness." Applause, standing ovation, and that's where she met him. Daniel. He was in the audience, not staring, not fawning, just listening, deeply, silently. He didn't come up to her, like the others. He didn't take a selfie. He simply left a note with a volunteer. It read, "Thank you for reminding me that beauty isn't something you see. It's something you feel." She found the note tucked under her water bottle backstage, and for the first time in months, her heart fluttered. They met for coffee, then for lunch, then again. Daniel wasn't loud. He didn't flatter. He didn't perform. He simply saw her, not her fame, not her following, her. He listened to her darkest memories without flinching. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He said, "They never deserved you." He never called her beautiful just for the sake of it. He said, "You're fire, and fire isn't here to be pretty. It's here to be powerful." She didn't fall in love suddenly. It was quiet, like rain soaking into dry soil, healing. A year passed. Together they traveled, created projects about real beauty, helped young girls learn to love their skin. She had found peace. And then an unexpected invitation arrived. Rishab was getting married to someone else. The irony. The bride looked exactly like Anya, only fairer. The wedding was lavish, media everywhere, it was clear. They were trying to erase the past. Paint over the scandal. The same mother who once called Anya too dark was now flaunting a perfect bride. Anya didn't react. She had moved on. But fate wasn't done yet. A charity event was being held in the same city, a high-profile one, and Anya was the chief guest. She didn't plan her entrance. She didn't wear revenge, but when she walked in with Daniel beside her, hand in hand, the entire room turned. There she was, elegant, bold, unapologetic, and beside her, a man who looked at her like she was the sun. Rishab stood near the bar, a glass in his hand. He saw her. He froze. She saw him and kept walking. No eye contact, no nod, nothing, because some stories don't need closure. Some wounds are better left open to remind you why you healed. Later that night, Rishab found her alone on the terrace. He cleared his throat. "You look different." She turned slowly. "Different?" she repeated, almost amused. "Or do you mean I finally became what you couldn't see?" He said nothing. She stepped closer. "You once told me you couldn't marry someone with dark skin. So tell me, Rishab, what color is regret?" He looked away. "I was young," he murmured. "I was stupid." "No," she said. "You were cruel. There's a difference." Silence. He looked at her, eyes filled with something that might have been sorrow or shame. "Do you ever miss me?" he whispered. She paused, then smiled. "Not bitter, not angry. Sometimes," she said, "but then I remember who I am now, and I realize I never needed you. I just needed to lose you to find myself." She walked away, back to Daniel, back to her peace. Rishab watched her disappear into the crowd, and for the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to lose something you never deserved in the first place. Fame can bring applause, but healing, true healing, brings purpose. 4. Anya, it wasn't just about rising anymore, it was about lifting others. She began working with young girls, some rejected for their complexion, others bullied for their body, hair, voice or background. They saw their pain in her story. She saw her past in their eyes. She gave them more than hope. She gave them language, the words to say, "I am not less. I do not need to be fixed. I am not here to be chosen. I choose myself." One morning she received a letter from a school in a remote village. The girls there were skipping class, not because they didn't want to learn, but because they were too ashamed of how they looked. The school invited her to speak. She didn't hesitate. No cameras, no press, just her and the girls. She walked into a dusty hall where 20 faces looked up at her, scared, curious, hopeful. She sat down on the floor with them. No stage, no microphone. And she said, "I was once told I wasn't beautiful enough to be loved. But the truth is, beauty is not in your skin, it's in your spirit. Your skin is not your weakness, it's your strength. It holds the stories of your ancestors, warriors, dreamers, queens." One of the girls whispered, "But Dee, everyone says fair is better." Anya smiled softly. "And yet here I am, dark, proud and more than enough." That moment wasn't viral, it wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And real things change the world. Months passed. Anya was nominated for a global award in representation and activism. Not for her beauty, not for her fashion, but for her voice. Daniel stood beside her on the red carpet. As always, silent, steady, proud. She didn't need to be rescued. He'd never tried. He loved her like light loves shadows, fully without needing to erase them. During her acceptance speech, she held the award in trembling hands and said, "This is for every girl who was told she was too dark to shine. You were never too dark. The world was just too blind. Your skin is not a flaw, it's poetry, and you don't need anyone's approval to be radiant. You already are." The crowd stood, not just for the words, but for the woman who had turned rejection into revolution. Later that night, as she stood at her window looking at the stars, she thought of the day she was left at the altar. It didn't hurt anymore. It didn't burn, because she wasn't that girl anymore. She was fire now. She didn't get revenge. She got freedom. And in that freedom, she found something better than closure. She found herself.